To follow the lead that I heard yesterday at CD's dinner, and to quote Bo Cutter, I will give you 7 ideas in 7 minutes. Why 7 minutes? Because as David Steiner put it, quoting Henry VIII to his wives, I don't want to keep you here for too long. Right. So, idea number 1. Idea number 1 is a quote from a Nobel Prize, a British Nobel Prize physics scientist, Rutherford, who said, "Gentlemen," so we're in the 21st century, so now it's ladies and gentlemen, "we have run out of money, therefore we must think." We have run out of money. The US government, the European governments have run out of money. Therefore we must think. Think, not print. We must think about ways to create wealth, and not we must print more money. I mean, in Europe we have the benefit, quote unquote, of significant historic experience when we play with money. We have the benefit of serious experience when money dies. Mr. Daniel quoted the assignat in the French Revolution. I could quote, I have at home a 2 billion Deutschmark banknote from my stays in Germany, and the family gave this note to me, 2 billion Deutschmark, and said, "Look, Edouard, with this note, my grandfather could buy bread in the morning and could buy nothing in the afternoon. So no more." Very serious things happen when you play with money, and I still don't understand what it means, budgets that, according to the Congressional Budget Office, will run $1,000 billion of annual deficits over the next 10 years, what it means to create new money, to create new bonds on this treasury. Second idea, as Tom mentioned, Thomas Mann, make no mistake, we are at war. I'm not talking Iraq or Afghanistan or Iran or Korea or whatever. We are already at war. We are at economic war. Gideon Rose this morning gave an interesting speech on his book. All the things he said about war apply to economic war. We are at war, and it seems that we, in the US and in Europe, we are losing the war. I will not talk about Europe, but in the US, we have 25 million of underemployed people and people without a job. We have 25% of households underwater. We are losing this war. And who's winning? Well, I think it will not go down well next year, early next year, when both Wall Street and the City of London once again publish record bonuses in this background. If we are losing this war and Wall Street and the City of London are winning it, on whose sides exactly are they? Third idea, what is at stake? Well, I have 3 daughters, and if we are at war, there is a famous British quote which says, "Daddy, what did you do during the war?" Right? What is at stake? I'm European, but I have built a political initiative which encourages the United States of Europe. I think there is still a long way to go, notably when you discuss with Mr. Barroso and Van Rompuy et al. In the meantime, before the United States of Europe ever exists, and I hope my daughters will see it one day, there is no other alternative but for the US to lead this dangerous world, this extremely, increasingly dangerous world in the 21st century. So I'm going to give you some little bit of advice, or share some little bit of advice from a European perspective, but it is a very self-interested advice, because we need you to continue to lead. The alternatives are not very good. Fourth idea, by the way, who is the enemy if we are at war? Not the rest of the world, please. I mean, not the rest of the world. We cannot punish by protectionism or other, we cannot punish the incredible, strong and durable wealth that great countries like Brazil, like India, like China have created over the last decades, thanks to their hard work, thanks to their understanding of free trade. And the enemies are not the rest of the world. If I may, we have to deal with two enemies inside. I know them. You know these enemies. It is one, an excess of debt and short-term financing and short-term finance horizons. Two, an excess of consumption that ruins not only the environment, but our health, our habits, and our portfolio. These two enemies, how have we dealt against them so far? Well, we try to kill the excess of debt by another excess of debt and deficits. We try to kill the excess of consumption by another excess of consumption, more cash for clunkers. And this does not stand out. Daddy, what did you do during the war? What are you doing against these two enemies? Ideas number 5 and 6, they go hand in hand. Number 5 is the big stick, and number 6 is the big carrot. And here I am going to talk about a much hated three-letter word here in the US. I'm going to talk about tax. Tax is a fantastic, very useful, helpful big stick if applied correctly. And it can also be a fantastic, very helpful big carrot in the meantime. It only depends on where do you use it, as a big stick or as a big carrot. I've only spent 3 years in America. But I've lived with the idea of America all my life for many personal and family reasons. And I think I understand a few things about America. One thing is, okay, let's start with the big stick first. One thing is, to me, America is not only Wall Street, it's not only short-term financing, it's not short-term financing, excess of debt, excess of consumption. America is about innovation. America is about entrepreneurs. America is about letting individuals, households, and corporations, not brokers, corporations who manufacture goods, services, etc. It's about letting individuals and corporations allocate freely the capital and making the engine work. It's about Apple, it's about name it, it's about General Electric, it's about, to cut a long story short, if we are to use the tax as a big stick and a big carrot, why don't we start sooner rather than later? The big stick, I think, needs to be applied rapidly to the excess of consumption and excess of short-term financing. I don't have enough time to rediscuss the benefits of 21st century Glass-Steagall Act, but if I'm a strong believer in that, and we will quote FDR at the end of this discussion. If we are to, there is already an excess of liquidity in the system, an excess of liquidity in the bank's funds today. The problem is the allocation of credit. The problem is giving the banks the good incentives to allocate the credits at the right place. There are fiscal tools to help that. If you start to separate speculative broker-like banks and commercial banks that irrigate the economy, you can play with the tax weapon too. Enough with the big stick. Oh, we could also discuss, the idea, why do we have countries, economies, and we have the same in Europe, where the more debt you have, the more interest charge you have, the more tax-free it is? Why LBOs thrive in this country and in the rest of the world with interesting positives, but a lot of negatives too, partly because there is a very strong fiscal incentive on tax-free interest charge. So stick on one side, carrot on the other. I don't get it. What I heard this evening, this morning, and in the debate in this country over the last month, I don't get it. Why we should start discussing raising the income tax on individuals, the corporation tax on corporation, whereas it is exactly the contrary that you want to do? Probably. There is a French idea which is VAT, taxe sur la valeur ajoutée. Isn't there a possibility to start putting more taxes on excess of consumption, on short-term financial debt, and putting better fiscal incentives on the corporations, on the new Apples and Googles of this country and this world, and on the households? I discussed these very daring ideas with two CEOs yesterday evening who were nominated at a fantastic CED dinner. To me, it's in many respects it was America at its best, but I discussed it with Charles already. These two CEOs, sorry I cannot quote them, but they are very American. They are both entrepreneurs, and they come from thousands and miles away, and they run two of your biggest companies today. I tried to sell this idea to them. I said, tough sell. Tough sell. Maybe it's a good idea, but nobody will have the political courage to do it. So tough sell, and I go back to my own business. Well, there we are. This is idea number 7. And I refer to, when you go on the front page of CED.org right now, there is a billet, there is a note by Joe Minashek, who says, the president must lead. It looks very obvious, but it is not. The president must lead. Now, two questions. How, or which kind of president? Here, if I may be as daring as this, it's not giving political advice. I don't vote in the US, but if you give me 1 more minute to profile how such a president could lead. A president that is neither left nor right-wing, but maybe both. Tom discussed about social cohesion first. Jill and Ted discussed about how Japan went through its 2 decades of depression with a social cohesion. A president that is neither left nor right-wing, but both. A president that understands business. Not only understands business, is a businessman, is a pragmatic, knows how to make things work, knows how to make an agenda work, and not only give great speeches without decisive action. A pragmatist. A president that is able, like FDR, to go at the money changers, to do a 21st century Glass-Steagall Act, to cut what I think is a damaging Wall Street, Washington, D.C. corridor, and it's not time to discuss political financing here, but therefore a president that is enough at ease with money, that has enough money to be above it and to go for more serious matters, if I may, if we are indeed at war. A president that is independent from money. A president that would be able to say, here we are getting into an extreme, but a president that is wealthy enough to say and conscious enough of the national, i.e. the world interest, to say, I welcome the hatred of the wealthy if it is about to get this country back on its feet, if it is about to get more social cohesion, if it is about winning the wars of the 21st century. CED is about business and statesmanship. I think, I will give no names here, I think if you are able to bring back business minds and statesmanship to the White House, then I know deep inside that America will be back. I know that America will be back for its own benefit and for the benefit of the rest of the world. I end the profiling now, just to mention that I am a New Yorker by heart, and I think New York still has a lot to give to this country. Thank you.